What's going on, everybody? My name is Blake Ruffino and this is Are You Serious? We got a good show in store for you today. We're going to be talking about the national championship and breaking that down. That was one hell of a game. I hope you stayed up for all of that. Also, LSU's going to be making some hires, not so popular hires, but I'm going to give you one hire that I think that they should make. And also, we're going to be talking about Steve Ensminger. I know that there's been a lot going on, a lot of people talking about him as the next possible, not official yet, could be official as I'm making this video, but Steve Ensminger to be your next offensive coordinator at LSU. We're going to break that down bit by bit and piece by piece. But before we get into all of that, if you want to follow all of my shows and follow me on all my social media websites, on my YouTube page, you can look in the description down below. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can go to my website. Please like and subscribe to all my YouTube videos, and you can be up to date with everything that Are You Serious is doing. All right, guys, let's talk about the national championship. Look, there's no question, no one can question this now from here on out. Nick Saban is the GOAT. He's the best in college football. He's the best that's ever done it. He's the best at everything that Les Miles wasn't. And I'm going to tell you why. There are three things that you have to do to be successful and win 6 national championships. When you look at Nick Saban, the number one thing, and not in any specific order, but recruiting. Look, Saban has had the top 2 or 1 class, considering on what website you look at, in the nation over the last 5 years. Now, Georgia is the consensus over 1 this year, but Saban is the best recruiter in college football. And the reason is because he goes in and tells kids one thing. You want to win an SEC title? Sure. You want to go to the NFL? Heck yeah. You want to win a national title? Absolutely. Come to Alabama. And those kids do. Saban also does something that a lot of coaches are unable to do. He adjusts within the game. And he put on a clinic yesterday on how to adjust and just look at the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts was not able to throw the football, and like I said on my video yesterday, he was not going to be able to get a lot of big throws. I thought that they would try to get him in third and medium and get the first downs. They were unable to do that. But Alabama found themselves down 13 to Georgia. That defense was playing with a lot of momentum and a lot of intensity, and you were unable to throw the football. Coming back out at halftime, Nick Saban did something that Les Miles was unable to do. If you remember in 2011, Jordan Jefferson was the quarterback. A lot of people were screaming for Jared Lee to get into the game. We're not going to dive into that. But Nick Saban put in a true freshman and Tua Tagovailoa, and they won the game, 26-23. Georgia ran a cover 2. To break it down a little bit to you, ran a cover 2. Alabama ran what they call Seattle, which is 4 seams, and a true freshman from Amite, Louisiana, 20 miles that way, caught the game-winning pass on a vertical. I'll get to that back in a minute. But that is what I'm talking about mid-game adjustments. That's what makes Saban great. He has, number 3, he has an identity. Players know when they come to Alabama, they know that they're going to have they're going to have to compete to play. They have great assistants. Look at Lane Kiffin. Look at the team, Georgia, who their head coach is Kirby Smart, who's been with Nick Saban since 2000, as I mentioned yesterday. The only team other than Clemson that was able or was about to dethrone Saban. The only assistant that was about to dethrone Saban and wasn't able to do that. And talking about the great assistants and the team that Saban puts around him, I mentioned just 2 minutes ago, and I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that there's a guy that, and this is all my opinion. I want to make this completely clear that this is all my opinion. And I have not spoke to anyone about this. This is just what Blake Ruffino thinks. There's a guy by the name of Sammy Petittio that's on the Alabama staff. As I just mentioned, there was a kid named Devonta Lee from Amite, Louisiana, who caught the game-winning pass, but not just in the national championship game. He did that against Mississippi State as well. He came to Alabama because of Sammy Petittio. Now, in 2019, in Tangipahoa Parish, where Sammy is from, there are 3 top 100 recruits in that parish. Do you really think that Sammy is not going to go after those kids? There was another kid in Kentwood, I forget the exact year he graduated, but Shaheem Carter, who's going to be a starter next year for Alabama, who came from Tangipahoa Parish. But you think that you don't need Sammy Petittio? I did an article, and I could put the link up and share that link with you about all the credentials of Sam Petittio. LSU, I want you to listen to me, okay? You need to go get him. Period, point blank. If you don't go get Sam Petittio, there's a chance you're going to have a guy that's going to be competing with you against Ismail Sabshir, Devonta Lee, Trey Palmer. Who, did you see Trey Palmer, even though he was having cramps in the state championship game? But did you see that kid? You better watch out. And there's not just kids in Tangipahoa Parish that Sammy can go after. You know what I'm talking about. You guys in the inside of LSU know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's a guy by the name of Austin Thomas who was glorified by LSU fans, who was pretty much just a pencil pusher. I'm not trying to be mean to Austin Thomas. He's not Sam Petittio. He's not a guy that could be a field position coach. There's a reason that Saban keeps him around. Because he's a ball coach. He has a great football mind. Defensively, you think they don't ask him stuff? Get out of here, man. Pay this man whatever he wants to come to LSU. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is Saban's going to come back in here next year and get some players. Well, Blake, they didn't do it this year. No top 10 guy in Louisiana was snagged by Saban. Watch yourself. Get ready. It's coming. All right, guys, I told you that we were going to be talking about Steve Ensminger, and we are. Let's break it down. Now, yesterday, if you guys saw, and 520 of you saw, I did a poll yesterday of what you guys thought about Steve Ensminger. Now, 520 of you voted. 111 of you said that you thought Steve Ensminger would be a great offensive coordinator. 380 of you said that he wouldn't be a great offensive coordinator. And only 29 of you, 5%, said that just let Orgeron do whatever he wants. We trust Ed Orgeron. So let's dive into Steve Ensminger. And I want to make this very, very clear. I get no likes, I get no love for what I'm going to say. I've been called a homer, I've been called a homebody, I've been called a lot of things by a lot of people for sticking up for LSU. Quote unquote, sticking up for LSU. I'm not sticking up for anybody. I'm telling you what the truth is in an actual opinion and taking a step back to what it is that LSU is actually doing. So let's get some pros and cons. Here are some cons. I told you that I was a homer. Now, it's been reported that Jerry Sullivan, who's a very good wide receivers coach, could be promoted as a quote-unquote co-offensive coordinator or a pass game coordinator. Look, Steve Ensminger is going to be calling plays. Now, the con on this is that Jerry is not a great recruiter. He's an older guy. He's not going to go out there and recruit. And that is a big con. Okay, if a guy can't go out there and recruit, then you have an issue. And like I said, the number one thing with Saban was what? Recruiting. Personally, I would have wanted a younger guy. Again, that's personally. I would have wanted a Kendall Browse. And I get the baggage. I'm talking about football-wise and leaving the baggage out. But there's other guys that have that same kind of mentality and scheme as Kendall Briles and don't have the baggage that you could go and get. And I'll give you an example. No one really knew of Matt Canada before we went after him last year. Okay? The thing that I continue to hear in a quote-unquote con is that Steve Ensminger would only be here for 2 years and he didn't want the job. He's not going to do it for long, and we'll be in the same position that we are right now. Let me ask you this question, and this is kind of a pro and con. If you bring in a great offensive mind and a great offensive coordinator, do you think they're going to be here more than 2-3 years? No, they're not going to be. They're not. Steve Ensminger has no agenda when it comes to LSU. You know what he wants to do? He wants to develop a good quarterback. He wants to win a national title for LSU. Then he wants to retire, go home, drink bourbon, smoke a cigar if he wants to. That's all he wants to do. He has no agenda about being a head coach or an offensive coordinator anywhere else. All he cares about is being the offensive coordinator at LSU. All he cares about is what? Winning. It's not the only thing that matters when it comes down to it. Pretty much. I mean, all right, I'm just going to move on to the next argument. I had a good point here, and I've been contemplating if I was going to do it. It's a little controversial. I'm just not going to get into that. Look, the big thing that every LSU fan talks about is beating Alabama. Okay, and I get it. Everyone wants to beat Bama. Auburn can do it. They've done it twice in 5 years. You're right. But Saban's also 3-2 against Bama in those 5 years. All we got to do is bring a young mind to beat Alabama. A pocket passer cannot beat Alabama. Well, did Jake Fromm show you anything different last night? He should have. Look, Steve hasn't called plays in 20 years, but he's a quarterback. He was a quarterback. He knows the position. He knows how to play that position. He knows what it takes to play in the SEC. The biggest argument has been, well, Blake, we have a good freshman quarterback. We have... If you look, Tua Tagovailoa, by the way, Tua played great last night, and Jake Fromm, they can do it. Why can't we? Two teams. It never happens. You're talking about college football that has gone on for how long? Yes, they are great quarterbacks. Yes, they're going to be great quarterbacks. But that's not the norm. Is there any real problem with Miles Brennan sitting behind and waiting a year and maturing? Every kid is different. Okay? And with that 20 years, Steve Ensminger has seen a lot of players come and go. The biggest thing and the argument that I get about this 20-year thing, this 20-year... Oh, he hasn't called plays in 20 years. He can't develop a quarterback. We should have started a freshman. Were you saying that about John Gruden, who was out of the game for 10 years? No. You weren't. Steve can call plays. You know how I know? Let's take a look at what happened last year. LSU made a big change after losing to Auburn, and Steve was promoted to the offensive coordinator. He had wins against Missouri, Southern Miss, Texas A&M. But Blake, here's a big argument. Here's a huge argument that you LSU fans need to do your research. Steve Ensminger was never the coordinator when LSU beat a ranked team. Really? He beat number 23 Ole Miss. He beat number 25 Arkansas. He beat number 13 Louisville with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But Blake, it's about field position also and the defense. Well, you know what? Those special teams didn't score any points, and also that defense didn't score any points. Now, were they great? Yes. But the teams that they were going against were also really good. You talking about developing a quarterback? Let's look at the numbers from Auburn all the way to Louisville in the quarterback named Danny Etling. Now, all of you have been crying for Miles Brennan. Do you not think that Miles Brennan is going to be better than Danny Etling? Do you not think that if Steve Ensminger can develop Danny Etling, that he can't develop Miles Brennan? You need to relax. You have to relax. In the games that Ensminger called, he also had some losses, and we know those losses. Alabama 10-0, which in turn, look at Alabama's offense. Their backups could be a top 10 team in college football. 10-0. Florida, a lot going on with that game. Guys, they could have won that football game. Guys went the wrong way on the handoff, but let's take the loss. However, Steve Ensminger had 32 points per game, 465 yards per game, which would have been 17th in total offense in the entire nation. Do you think Steve Ensminger's not a great play caller now? Blake, they had better talent last year at LSU than they did this year. You can't compare the numbers. Steve Ensminger himself went and got who? Oh yeah, that's right, the #1 receiver in the nation. There's a chance you're going to get a kid by the name of Jamar Chase. Ensminger is not the worst thing that could happen to LSU. Is he the sexiest thing that could happen to LSU? No. Danny Etling was developed by Steve Ensminger. Danny Etling. Look, I mentioned to you that Miles Brennan would be able to be developed by Steve Ensminger. So will Lowell Narcisse. Here's how I know. And here's how I know and why I know that Steve Ensminger, and here's been another criticism of Steve Ensminger, he's going to line up with a fullback, and he's going to line up with a tailback right behind that fullback, and he's going to go 2 tight ends and 1 wide receiver. Let's take a look at what Ed Orgeron. Now let's take a step back and let's look at this as a whole. Ed Orgeron has told you multiple times, even when he was an interim, that he wanted Steve Ensminger to call plays and be his offensive coordinator. Steve didn't necessarily want it, and he stated that no one fires a tight ends coach. Maybe he just wanted to end his days at LSU. But now he's here. Ed Orgeron has told you multiple times that he wants a dual threat quarterback or a quarterback that can sling it and is mobile enough in the pocket, a.k.a. Miles Brennan, a.k.a. a kid that they're going after in 2019. Do you really think that Ed Orgeron doesn't know and didn't watch that game last night? You don't think he doesn't know that the game has evolved? Here's a better one. You think Steve Ensminger hasn't seen that? In 25, 30 years worth of coaching? I'm pretty sure he has. I'm pretty sure he has. LSU's not going to be a fullback, tailback, too tight, run right at him. You know, I know that also because they let the only true fullback that's on their roster go. They let him transfer. and they didn't go get another one. Give it a chance to work out. Steve Ensminger and all the coaches that I've talked to, and look, I have called no less than 25 people. 25. 24 of them, and let me go in quoting here, told me he is the best offensive mind we've ever seen. The best. You think it's not going to work? Alright guys, I told you on my Wednesday shows that I was going to be doing a segment called Mailbag, and the biggest question is Blake, after all, the biggest question is, do you think Steve Ensminger is going to work? And look, if you didn't get what I said in that segment, then it's hard for me not to believe that Steve won't do a good job at LSU, but I don't know if he'll do a great job at LSU. I think we should give him a chance. There's no two people on the planet that want to win more than Ed Orgeron and Steve Ensminger for LSU. And I think it was 15 of you asked me that question, so there you go. I think Steve is a great offensive mind. I think he could do a great job at LSU. I think we need to relax. Give it a chance to work out. And you know what? The biggest thing, and I'm going to end it with here, is LSU defensively is going to be amazing next season. Amazing. And I believe that Ed Orgeron and Steve Ensminger and Jerry Sullivan and Dave Aranda and Corey Raymond, who have a combined 200 years of football experience between all of them, have a game plan. Now, are they going to be able to adjust when all hits the fan? We'll just have to wait and see. Alright guys, y'all have a great day, and we will see you again tomorrow.